All right, so you've by now gotten to the point where you're sketched out and you've blocked in all the color that you need. What I was going to show you guys now is how to take your paint palette and start adding the dots. Now, traditionally, pointillistic painters used a paintbrush to do this, and this can be kind of tedious with time constraints. So I will have for you guys some Q-tips, which work just as well as paintbrushes. And the other thing is you don't have to necessarily clean them out. You can just throw them away because they're cheap. But either way you want to go about approaching this, you want to keep in mind the two different techniques that we've talked about, which were bend-a dot and half-tone dot. Because we practice both of these, and I wish I would have been able to kind of give you guys a little bit more practice with these two techniques, but what you want to remember is exactly what made those two techniques specific. All right? Bend-a dot meant you could layer up the dots, but the dots had to stay the same size and they had to stay the same distance apart. Half-tone dots were dots that were different, or I'm sorry, the same color, right? But they could vary in size and they could vary in distance. So when you're doing this, you want to kind of think about exactly what effect you're trying to get and what technique would work best for that effect. I'll take a picture of my palette that I've got here that I'm going to start painting, but I want to adjust the camera so that you can really see what I'm working on right here, either with the Q-tips or the paintbrush. So give me a second to readjust and I'll kind of... Alright, well, what we got here is we've got my painting and my palette right here that I'm going to be working right out of. Again, I'll take a picture of it to show you kind of the color scheme that I'm working with. But one of the things I want you to do is use the picture of the sunset, and again, I'll put that up side by side so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But one of the things that I want to kind of let you guys see is how you go about getting those effects that you're looking for. And I'm going to start off very simply by going into those reflections on the water right here. It might be a little difficult to see, but I've got my horizon line right here with the sun and the sky. But here, right in the water where the waves are kind of rippling, I'm going to go in and let me adjust this real quick. I'm going to go in with my paintbrush and start adding dots to mimic sort of the reflection. Again, maybe I'll try to put up on one of these sides. I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but one of these sides I'll try to put the picture of the sunset so that you can see. And I'm just going to add dots with my paintbrush in the areas that I believe the dots need to be. Alright, so they kind of vary in size as they go. What technique are you using? Okay. Really, it's up to me right now to figure out what technique is going to work the best. Now, you can probably tell with my paintbrush and the paintbrushes that we have in class, they've been chewed up pretty good, and they might not be the best for doing this and getting an exact looking circle. So I'm going to go and actually start use the Q-tip. And one of the things I like about the Q-tip is it's disposable, so it doesn't really mean that I've got to sit here forever and clean this guy out. I can just go ahead and add dots right on top and get an effect that I'm a little bit more happy with. And then when I want to move on to another color, I can go ahead and do that. Now, one thing that I will say is the green that I'm working with right here is a little darker than I need. So I can go with the other side of the Q-tip and just lighten that up with a lighter green, a light yellow green, and go right on top of that with more dots and blend that in just by using the bend-a technique, which is layering the same size dots over top of each other, but at the same distance. Oh, got a little on my side of the paper. Now, one thing that I will say that you want to keep in mind is tempera paint is going to look darker when it's wet than it is when it dries. So don't get too overwhelmed if the colors don't match up correctly, because you're going to be painting wet paint on top of dry paint. One of the things that happens with tempera paint is when the tempera paint dries, it lightens up a little bit. So don't get too worried about what the overall effect is going to look like. Just concentrate on blending or using those two techniques, the Ben-Day and the halftone, to get the desired effect of the blended sunset. All the details don't have to be exact, but you do want to think about how, now that you've blocked in the color, how you're going to use those dots to focus in on creating a pointillistic style painting. Okay, you have 4 days to work on this, so think about what you're going to be focusing on the most. Is it going to be blocking in the color, or is it going to be using the dots? Good luck.